Are you well aware of your potential?
What career suits you best?
And what are your interests?
I am Miss Sam.
And I am Miss Michaela.
We are your psychometricians.
And we aim to help you find the answers
through our testing services. Psychological testing serves to gain a better understanding of the self and your behavior. Our programs are committed to realize one's strengths, weaknesses, and other significant aspects of the self. Our goal is to enhance self-understanding and personal development.
Speaking of development, we would also like to welcome you to the improved testing room of the Guidance Office. The development of our facilities is intended to make sure that you are comfortable during your visit.
Quote Carl Rogers, "The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and to change."
Self-discovery is a huge step to making your ideal self a reality.
A student's life is dedicated to learning, both from books and experiences. The students are challenged in their classrooms and laboratories to prove themselves ready to sail to their futures.
And as for the VMA Guidance Office, what we offer to help you with is self-discovery. Just how well do you know yourself? Are you well aware of your potential?
What career suits you best?
And what are your interests?
I am Miss Sam.
And I am Miss Michaela.
We are your psychometricians.
And we aim to help you find the answers
Through our testing services. Psychological testing serves to gain a better understanding of the self and your behavior. Our programs are committed to realize one's strengths, weaknesses, and other significant aspects of the self. Our goal is to enhance self-understanding and personal development.
Speaking of development, we would also like to welcome you to the improved testing room of the Guidance Office. The development of our facilities is intended to make sure that you are comfortable during your visit.
Quote Carl Rogers, "The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and to change."
Self-discovery is a huge step to making your ideal self a reality.
Good morning, VMAers! Welcome to the last part of our virtual symposium series, still brought to you by the VMA Guidance Center. I am Hannah Grace, your host for today's webinar. So before we officially start with our program, we would like to acknowledge the attendance of our dear students coming from the Maritime Department, as well as our faculty and staff who are joining us right now via Zoom and Facebook Live. Thank you very much for being with us here at this very moment. May we also request everyone, especially to our dear students, to please refrain from posting your names at the comment section of our FB Live or Zoom chat box, as it is not considered or counted as your attendance. All right, so there will be an official form or link which will be sent later at the comment section before the end of our webinar. So I guess we're all set. Our resource speaker is already here with us, and she will be properly introduced to you later. So to commence this activity, let us all take a pause for an opening prayer, and this will be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Let us all remember that we are in the most holy presence of God.
Sa langit ka, sambahin ang ngalan mo. Mapasa amin ang kaharian mo, sundin ang loob mo. Dito sa lupa, maranan sa langit, bigyan mo po kami ngayon ng aming kakanin sa araw-araw. Patawarin mo kami sa aming mga sala, para napagpapatawan namin sa nagkakasala sa amin. At huwag mo kami ipahintulot sa tukso, at iadya mo kami sa lahat ng masama.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
To formally welcome us all in this Gender and Development webinar series, let us all focus our attention on our screens as we listen to our officer in charge of the Guidance Office, Mr. Mayral John D. Alunsagay, as he gives his opening remarks.
A warm welcome and thank you for joining the webinar series VMAers. I appreciate much your support on this program, together with our administrators, faculty, and staff, and of the VMA Guidance Center together with our Management Information System Office. It's good as well that through this, we could be able to know our social responsibility and sustainability with the issues we are to tackle today on gender development, which is of course inclined in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. We are indeed grateful to our students, together with their parents, with whatever will be the outcome of our collaboration today through this dialogue. Sorry for the technical error. I hope that through this webinar series, you students will be better informed and equipped with helpful tools and guidance with your gender roles, and importantly, learn and emulate the good practices you will be learning from our esteemed speakers this morning. We at the VMA Guidance Center look forward for a stronger collaboration and dialogue towards an effective and sustainable recovery with what you will be experiencing related to our topics today. We should see this as an opportunity to learn lessons and adjust opportunities for better social protection. And together, we must do this towards a lasting, sustainable, and inclusive recovery from everything, especially in this global crisis. Again, thank you and a pleasant morning to everyone.
This time, let's get to know our resource speaker for this morning session. May I call on my fellow guidance associate and our assigned gender and development focal person, Ms. Victoria Rose Basiliote, to formally introduce to us our guest speaker.
Good morning. So I am tasked to introduce to all of you our guest speaker this morning. So our guest speaker this morning graduated Bachelor of Science in Psychology, major in Special Education at Riverside College Incorporated. She finished her Master's of Arts in Guidance and Counseling with high academic excellence, most outstanding thesis at University of Negros Occidental, Recoletos. She is currently finishing her doctoral degree in psychology at the University of Negros Occidental, Recoletos. Currently, she is an instructor, guidance counselor at Carlos Hilado Memorial State University, Alihis Campus. She was a guidance counselor in Bacolod City National High School, year 2018 to year 2022. She was also a guidance counselor in Riverside College Incorporated. She is a licensed professional teacher. She is a registered guidance counselor, and she is also a member of Philippine Guidance and Counseling Association and a member of PGCA, Negros Occidental Guidance and Counseling Association. Let us all welcome Ms. Eileen Joy Decina, LPT RGC.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Echo. Okay, anyway, thank you for that very generous introduction, Miss Victoria. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our OIC in the guidance office, Sir Alon Sagay, and the rest of the administration, as well as the students here right now in our Zoom and in our Facebook Live. I hope you can see my presentation now. Please allow me to share my screen. Thank you. Okay, I would just like to confirm if you were able to see my screen. Okay, can someone confirm to me, please, if you can see my presentation now? Okay, technical committee. Okay, thank you for that one, Denisa, Miss Denisa, for confirming that you can see my presentation. Okay, welcome to our Gender Sensitivity Awareness webinar. So it is a privilege for me to be able to present this webinar or topic with you, VMA. So first things first, before we start with our webinar, let's have our mental health check-in first. So let's ask ourselves, how are you right now? Are you feeling great? Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling sad or upset? Or you're not doing well and need help and support, and so on and so forth? So please comment or write your feelings right now in our chat box so that I will be able to see your answers here in our Zoom. And I'm also joining you here in our Facebook Live through your page here in the VMA Guidance Center. So how are you guys? Are you feeling great today? Are you happy? Yes, may mga emojis tayo dito. Smiley lang. Si Rowena, Miss Rowena, Miss Danisa, thank you for that one. What about the others? Sleepy, Sir Renil Godwin. Oh, special shout out. Stretching tayo pag may time para hindi tayo sleepy. What about the others? Emojis lahat. I'm feeling great. Thank you so much. Okay, hopefully at the end of this webinar, all of you or some of you will still feel great. On the other hand, Reniel, hopefully ma-wake up ka na, mabugtaw ka na, okay? Galaw-galaw tayo pag may time. Okay, let's start. So let's have our first activity. What comes into your mind when you see or hear the words gender and development? So again, please comment your answers here in our chat box or in the Facebook Live. So what comes into your mind when you see or hear the words gender and development? Anyone? Sige, what comes into your mind when you see or hear the words gender? Ano ay hanang kasunod sa ulo ko man? When someone tells me gender or the word gender or the word development, here we have an answer from Ruben, gender roles. Thank you so much for that one. Yes, gender roles. What else? Please do not hesitate to answer or to write your answers in the chat box. In the Facebook, we have from Eliza, puberty stage. Thank you. Yes, because puberty is part of the development of an individual. We have again from Liorel, it's more on gender acceptance. Yes. From Denisa, we have gender equality. Thank you for mentioning that one, Miss Denisa. From Ruben, again, we have gender roles and social relations. That's right. And for Josia, correct me if I'm wrong with my pronunciation, but gender acceptance. Thank you so much for that one. And for our Facebook Live, okay, I guess that's it for your answers of what comes into your mind when you say gender and development. So yes, all of your answers are correct. Diba? These are all the terms connected to gender and development, to the words gender and development. So what is really gender and development? It is a development perspective. When we say development perspective, there's a growth, there is a process that recognizes the unequal status, hindi patas, unfair status or status and situation of between women and men in society. So remember that women and men, lalaki, babae, have different developmental needs, correct? May kinaiya, may kinalain kita nga mga kinahanglan, and at the same time, we have different interests, which is institutionalized or perpetuated by culture, by our culture, by our society, by our economy, and our political norms, systems, and structures. So as a developmental approach, gender and development, or GAD, very common, the common term or the usual term that we use with gender and development is the acronym GAD or GAD. Seeks to equalize because gender and development recognizes the unequal status. So of course, the aim is to equalize the status and condition of and relations between women and men by influencing here the process and output of number one, policy making. We have policies that we created. So gender and development is one of the policies that was created to equalize or answer or address the issue of unequal status between women and men. We have planning. What are the plans of the school? Now in VMA, so this is one of the plans of the school to address the gender and development or the unequal status of women and men. Our webinar, budgeting, of course, there's a budget with that one. Implementing, monitoring, and evaluating are the rest of the processes between gender and development. So God, remember, God is participatory. Dapat kita, kada isa sa aton, men and women, is sensitive and is participatory about this one. So that's why we are here in our webinar right now. This is of course empowering not just women, but of course men. Equitable, may fairness sa ating lagad. Sustainable, free from violence, of course, since we are addressing the unequal status, so of course, dapat free from violence against men and women, not just women, ha? And respectful of human rights and actualization of human potentials. God helps us, each of us, identify what are our potentials, our strengths, and as well as our weaknesses for us to develop these weaknesses of ours. So, for us to understand gender and gender sensitivity, let's first define the two concepts that are often used in relation to gender and sensitivity. We have sex and gender. So we have another activity here, another question. What do you think are the differences or the difference between sex and gender? Again, comment your answers in our chat box or in our live, Facebook Live. What do you think are the difference or differences between sex and gender? So remember, sex and gender, these are two common terms used when we are talking about gender sensitivity or gender and development. So of course, we have to discuss these two terms for us to better understand gender sensitivity and gender and development. Okay, anyone from the group? What comes into your mind? Or rather, what is the difference between sex and gender? Para sa inyo, ano pala ang kinaiba, kinalain sa sex and gender? Anyone? We have from Miss Daisy, sex is usually categorized as female and male. Thank you so much for that one, Miss Daisy. Yes, that's correct. About the others? For Eliza, we have some chose be gay, lesbian, or transgender. Okay. Thank you for that one, Eliza. Yes. We have gay, lesbian, the LGBT community. Later on, we're going to identify the silang part. Okay, another from Miss Daisy again. Gender refers to the socially constructed rules and behaviors. Thank you for this one, Miss Daisy. And from BSMT3 Alpha, sex refers to male and female, correct? And gender refers to sexual identity of an individual. From Miss Daisy again, I'm sorry. Okay, from Miss Daisy again, of girls, boys, and men and women. Alert to Miss Daisy. Thank you so much, Miss Daisy. Okay, from our Facebook Live, from Reniel gising ka na? Sex is a scientific or biological term for female and male. Thank you for that one. And from Denmark, sex is usually categorized, yes, as female or male, but there is variation in the biological attributes that comprise sex and how those attributes are expressed. Copy-paste ba ito? Gender refers to the socially constructed roles, behaviors, expressions, and identities of girls, women, boys, men, and gender diverse people. Thank you for that one, Denmark. We have from Rafemzon. Gender is somehow categorized on their self-preference. Thank you. Self-preference. And we have from Kobe Gasendo. Sex is biological and gender is social. Okay, I guess that's it. So thank you so much for your answers. And yes, your answers are correct. So let's first talk about sex. No? Aside from it is an action. Sex is also an action verb, action word rather. So we are going to identify sex as categories and biological components. So the term sex can be understood through these two categories and biological components. We have first, in the categories, sex is usually assigned at birth and is usually categorized as female or male. So at birth, female or male. So if you are a female, or rather either female or male. If you are not a female, then automatically you are a male. And if you are not a male, automatically, of course, you are a female. But here, see, ito nga, between female and male, we have this term or concept, intersex. Intersex, rather. Intersex is the term or the concept, or rather the word that a person may use when they have both male and female sex characteristics. Okay? Traditionally, this term is known as hermaphroditism. Okay? Or you identify that the person is hermaphrodite because that person has both female and male characteristics. Okay? So these characteristics include they both have genitalia of the male and the female. They both have the hormones of a male and a female, chromosomes, and reproductive organs. But remember that being intersex, no, this is not a disease. Hindi ito nakakahawa. Okay? So it is naturally occurring variation in humans. Maybe there is a problem sa ilang pag-conceive pa lang sang eggs, sang egg and sperm cell, and ang ilang gene pagwa intersex sila, or they have both genitals of characteristics rather of a male or a female. But being intersex, we have here a concept naman of, but being intersex can mean different things. Okay? For example, a person might have genitals or internal sex organs that fall outside of typical binary categories, or a person might have a different combination of chromosomes. Some people do not know that they are intersex until they reach puberty. Okay, so when I was reading, or rather creating this PowerPoint or slide decks of mine, I was able to encounter the name Jennifer Kagandahan. Correct me. I would like you to search that this person in Google. If you have your search engine there with you, I encourage you to check this Jennifer Kagandahan. Okay? And then read his, lalaki na siya subong, read his biography or autobiography so that we may be able to understand more what is intersex. Okay? So, Sanggamay siya, she was born, he or she was born as a female and was raised as a female. But when reached puberty and adulthood, may mga characteristics of being male na physically, no, nag-develop si Iya. So of course, it caused confusion, and that's when the time came that they realized na he is intersex, or the traditional term is hermaphrodite. So I encourage you to read his story. Okay. On the other hand, we have this biological component. Okay, it is primarily associated with our physical and physiological features, including our chromosomes, our gene expression, our hormone levels and function, and reproductive sexual anatomy. So you can see there in the slide decks, we have the male organs and the female organs. So of course, in biological component, if you are a female, of course, you have your vagina, you have your ovaries, and then we have your XX chromosomes. On the other hand, if you are a male, of course, you have your penis, you have your testes, and you have your XY chromosomes. So these are the biological differences between women and men. So there you go, the definition of sex. On the other hand, we have gender. So the word or the term gender refers to the socially constructed roles. Remember the term socially. Socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes that a given society considers rather appropriate for men and women. We also have another definition here of gender. The term implies the cultural roles. So we have our social term, and we have our culture term or cultural term, roles expected of a person. So it influences how people perceive themselves. That's why, according to Raffenzon here, gender is somewhat categorized on their self-preference. So that's correct, Raffenzon. How we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others. That is our gender. How we act and how we interact with others or with the society, and the distribution of power and resources in the society again. Because remember, gender is identified by our society and by our culture. Hindi siya by birth. That is a difference. Sex by birth, gender by society and culture. So gender identity is not confined to a binary girl, woman, boy, or man, nor is it static. Okay? Hindi lang yung specific na babae ka, or lalaki ka. Okay? It exists along a continuum and can change over time. It can change over time because, again, it is defined by our society and our culture. Remember that our society and culture is changing. So gender is also changing. Okay? To better understand the difference between sex and gender, let's check the characteristics and identify it side by side. Okay. For the sex, of course, we have a male or female, biologically determined as vagina or penis, and refers to physical characteristics. So as a male, what are the physical characteristics that was developed, or rather were developed sa imo when you were growing or when you reached puberty? Okay, on the other hand, females, what are those physical characteristics na nag-develop sa imo during your puberty or adolescent stage? Okay? And for the gender, remember that this is self-preference, if I may use the term of Raffenzon. Masculine or feminine. Remember, di ba may ang mga lalaki, no? Lalaki siya, male, at birth, male siya. Pero, nang pinlo, bigla si Iya, di ba, being tidy or being pinlo, bala sa lawas, or even sa things lang, o sa gamit, being organized, this is a characteristic, social characteristic of a female. Diba? Babae. But, hindi nga lalaki, here comes this man. Male at birth, kapinlo, very tidy, very organized. So that is the feminine side of that person or of that man. Okay? On the other hand, here comes a woman. Female at birth, babae siya, sangging bata siya. Pero go work siya in the construction site, yes. May mga women tayo na nagtatrabaho sa mga construction sites. May women na nag-grab or nag-grab driver. We also have women who are also working we thought na male lang siya work. Okay? That is the masculine side of that woman. So that's why hindi lang niya static, no? Hindi lang niya specific na babae or lalaki, male, female ang gender, but we have a masculine or feminine. Okay? On the other hand, as what I have mentioned, it is socially determined and culturally defined, the term gender. So it is changing because our society and our culture is also changing. And refers to learned behavior. Learned behavior, what do you mean with this? These are the behaviors that one person or a person develops as a result of experience. What are your experiences? Ano na experience mo? Okay? So if you were able to learn from that experience, automatically it will reflect in your behavior. Okay? So in psychology, we have that if that person really indeed learned something, ma-reflect na siya sa iyang behavior. So this is the difference when it comes to characteristics between sex and gender. On the other hand, there are differences naman of sex. Very specific to male and female. Women can breastfeed babies. I'm sorry. On the other hand, men can help women bottle feed their babies. Women have vagina, men have penis. Women have developed uterus. That's why women are capable of giving birth. And men's voice break at puberty, women's do not. That's why ang mga lalaki, wala pa sila they're not in their adolescent stage first, medyo pa-sweet pa ang tingog, no? Pero when they reach their puberty, an adolescent stage, ang tingog nila, di ba lalaki, babilog na gid. Mga boys, kamusta mataga? Ang tingog ta? Okay? On the other hand, for the gender here, remember socially and culturally defined ang gender. So in the Philippines, let's focus here in our country. Women were paid 21.1% less on average than men in 2021. Last year lang siya. So imagine that one, same role same job, same role, same responsibilities, but women were paid 22.1% less on average than men. Kamusta man na yan? Okay? Most building site workers are men. Remember I mentioned a while ago that I know a woman who is working as a construction worker. Right? But diba may doon na stereotype that only men can work in construction sites, kasi syempre physical, di na siya yung job mo manghakot kada sa mga bags of cement, no hollow blocks. But no, women can also do that one. Diba? So wag po nating maliitin ang mga babae. Women make up just 11% of the entire workforce because maybe we can relate this one in our culture that only men, or rather men, works and women takes care of the house. So that's why 11% of the entire workforce lang mga babae. On the other hand, but even this figure includes many who work behind a desk sa office lang sila, often in design, management, or secretarial roles. Or, di ba when we say secretary, daan, automatic, think tagid yung mga babae, gini ang secretary. But on the other hand, there are male secretaries man bala. Okay. And traditionally, as what I've mentioned here, men are working while women are staying at home. But right now, this is a traditional concept of what gender is. But right now, thanks God, our culture, our society is trying to change this one, that women can also work and at the same time, men can stay at home. Ma-change na roles, right? But I have here a trivia for you. In ancient Egypt, men stayed at home and did weaving while women handled family business. Okay? So remember, naka-base din ito sa ating culture, our society. So sa Egypt niya, sa atin here sa Philippines like that. Okay. Now, someone also mentioned gender roles and sex roles here when I asked what comes into your mind when you say rather the difference between sex and gender. I forgot kung sino lang to siya. Okay, what are the difference between sex and gender when it comes to the roles? So the terms sex role and gender role are often used interchangeably. Okay, however, the modifier gender implies roles may be socially or culturally produced. Remember, yun na siya nga two terms socially or culturally, whereas sex implies roles may be naturally or biologically determined. So we have here for sex roles, general set of expectations attached rather to being a man and a woman. So what are the roles, set of expectations attached to being a man and a woman? Okay. On the other hand, gender, learned behaviors in a given society or community or other special group that condition which activities and responsibilities are perceived as male and female. So for the sex roles, we have here, for the man or for the woman rather, bear a child and become a mother. Diba? Sex role, ginaya sa mga babae na bear a child and become a mother. Okay? On the other hand, for the male naman niya, their sex roles are to impregnate a woman, okay, and become a father. Ano na siya ang connection sa sex roles sa mga kababaihan, kalalakihan. On the other hand, gender roles, girls or women are generally expected to dress in typically feminine ways and be polite. Diba, girls, dapat na kung mag-go to church, we are wearing our dress, naka-dress kit, naka-pamumuski, nakapangusay. On the other hand, men can wear pants, kung ano man ang mga, basta pants. Okay, mga jogger pants na nila, ano ba ang mga pants na nila, pants. Okay, so, however, men are generally expected to be strong naman niya, aggressive, and bold. So I remember that every society, ethnic group, and culture has gender role expectations, but they can be very different from group to group. And gender differences are created, produced, reproduced, and maintained by social institutions. That's why I keep on saying this, they are socially and culturally defined. Let's proceed. Oh, here, another activity. Okay, I'll just give you 10 seconds to give your answer. Okay, 10 seconds lang you guys ha. So comment your answers here in our chat box and I'll check also in our Facebook Live what is your answer. So I'll only give you 10 seconds. That's it lang. We have here a situation. A father and son have a car accident and are both badly hurt. They are both taken to separate hospitals. When the boy is taken in for an operation, the surgeon or the doctor says, I cannot do the surgery because this is my son. How is this possible? I'll repeat, a father and son have a car accident and are both badly hurt. They are both taken to separate hospitals. When the boy is taken in for an operation, the surgeon or the doctor says, I cannot do the surgery because this is my son. How is this possible? So I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. Bawal po tayo mag-Google dahil nasa Google po ito. Okay. I'll give the answers here in our live. Hopefully, yung mga answers na. On the other hand, for those who are here in our Zoom, please write your answers here. Okay. I'll give you 10 seconds. 5 seconds na lang kapag na pa ito. Okay. We have one answer here now from Roldan. I'll read the answers after. Okay. For Roldan. Okay, I'm trying to connect with the Guidance Center, VMA Guidance Center na page. Okay, what about the others? Sir Roldan, lagi niya may answer. Okay. Sige. For all then, ang answer niya is the surgeon might become emotional and might hinder his operation. We only have two answers lang din ang receive ko. And for Darlene Rose, the surgeon is the mother of the patient. The correct answer is the surgeon is the mother of the patient. Diba? Okay? So may a little bit of confusion tadi. We usually think na ang mga doctors lang, rather mga lalaki, basta mga baka doctor, they are automatically male. Diba? So that's why there's a little bit of a confusion. Naka-tricky na siya nga question of how is this possible. Nga ay ginambas ang doctor that I cannot do the surgery because this is my son. Because the doctor is the mother of the patient. Yes. Okay. So the surgeon is a woman. She is the boy's mother. Thank you for that, for your answer, Darlene and Roldan. So si Darlene lang din ang nakakuha sa correct na answer. Okay, so here comes gender equality between men and women rather. Kumbaga balik ka doctor, lalaki yung dibiyahaw. Okay, so on the other hand, nurse, mga upod sa mga doctors, magkambal ka nurse, babae lang dibiyahaw. Okay, so we also have male nurses. Okay, but maybe because hindi nga concept nag-come up ni siya because in nursing bala they have this Florence Nightingale. Okay? If students here are have an idea that in nursing, if you are a nursing student, third year ka muna, you have your Florence, second year or third year, you have this Florence Nightingale, rather may candlelighting ceremony na. And though we have male students, no, male nursing students, ang gina-identify lang niya as a Florence Nightingale are female students. So only one female student can be identified as a Florence Nightingale. Okay, so that is where equality naman comes in. Okay. But maybe may reason behind that one because Florence Nightingale is a female, so maybe ginaano nila nga dapat babae man ang ating Florence Nightingale in a current situation. Thank you. Next, let's proceed. So of course, we cannot talk about gender sensitivity if we will not talk about gender equality. So gender equality, also known as sexual equality or equality of the sexes, is the state of equal ease of access to resources, equal ease of access to resources and opportunities regardless of gender. So gender equality refers to the equal rights, human rights, responsibilities, hindi lang rights, kundi may responsibilities man. What are the responsibilities of both the father and the mother sa pagpadako sa ilang bata? Okay? May amo na siya. And opportunities. So, including economic participation and decision-making, let's say, for example, in creating a family, and the state of valuing different behaviors, aspirations, and needs equally, regardless, again, of gender. So as gender equality concerns and benefits men and women, boys and girls, and not only women and girls, but also men and boys are required to fully engage in promoting gender equality and in changing gender roles. So let's talk about gender mainstreaming because we're already talking about gender equality. We also need to talk about gender mainstreaming. So remember that gender equality is our goal, but that is our goal to equalize both genders. What is our strategy? Our strategy is gender mainstreaming. So gender mainstreaming or gender and development mainstreaming is a major global strategy for ensuring that the government pursues gender equality in all aspects of the development process to achieve the vision of a gender-responsive society where women and men equally contribute to and benefit from development. So it involves the integration of a gender perspective in the preparation, Design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies, as what I have mentioned earlier in our webinar, regulatory measures and spending programs with a view to promoting equality between women and men and combating discrimination for both genders. So here we have our gender integration continuum. There are so many things that is happening in this slide deck. But here, remember that our goal is gender equality. So sa pinakapunta, in the middle, we have our gender sensitive. So later on, we're going to I'm going to present to you what gender sensitive is. But first, we have our gender integration continuum. And the first part or the first phase of our gender integration continuum is the gender blind. What is gender blind? It ignores, ignore mo, so you are blind of the roles, the rights, entitlements, responsibilities, and obligations associated with different gender groups and resulting inequities. So this is a failure to recognize the roles and responsibilities of both women and men or imposed upon by the society, culture, economy, and politics. So wala kaya labot, you do not mind what is the differences or what are the roles and rights of both men and women in the society because you are gender blind. On the other hand, we have gender aware. Okay? Recognizes from ignorance to recognizing. Recognizes socially assigned gender roles, rights, entitlements, responsibilities, obligations, and power relations, but accommodates and works around existing gender norms. We're already aware that this is the gender roles of men and women. These are their rights. However, you are still working around existing gender norms. So when you say existing gender norms, dapat ang babae, let's say for example, araan sa balay, ang mga lalaki, araan sa sulod sang agaw, sila ang nag-provide for the family. Okay, so that is gender aware. On the other hand, we have here gender sensitive or gender sensitivity. Acknowledges. We have ignorance, we already recognize here. So gender sensitive, we already acknowledge that there are gender norms, relations, and inequities. Ensures equal participation and that process and activities do nor exacerbate gender inequalities, but does not address underlying inequities. This aim at understanding and taking into account. Remember, understanding, when we talk about gender sensitive, we already understand and we are taking into action or taking into account the societal and cultural factors involved in gender-based exclusion and discrimination in public and private. Okay? Let's proceed with gender responsive. Gender responsive addresses differential gender needs, equitable participation, and equitable distribution of benefits, resources, rights, and status, but does not address root causes of inequities. Okay? So wala patagyapon mga policies, or rather may mga policies, but we do not put them into action or we do not implement them. So being gender responsive is a perspective that requires process of overcoming historical gender biases. And for the last part, we have the gender transformative, examines and addresses, or this time we already addressed the concerns between inequality between men and women. We have gender norms, cultural values, power structures, and the root causes of gender inequality and discrimination, seeks to redefine systems and institutions that create and perpetuate inequalities. So this refers to approaches. May mga activities na tayo ginahimo, may gina-implement ta ang mga policies, naging create ta ang mga plans, naging planuhan, naging tungkuan ta, were put into action na. Okay, actively striving to examine, question, and change rigid social and gender norms. So right now, we are still in our gender-sensitive awareness. This webinar is about awareness of our gender roles, our sex roles, but hopefully later on, we will be able to be responsive and transformative when it comes to the topic of gender equality. Okay, let's proceed. So the legal basis of gender equality, ang gender equality nilagay na siya storya, no, or myth. Okay? We have basis about gender equality, and our legislators were able to fight against gender equality, or rather gender inequality. That's why we have this legal basis. So the legal concept of gender equality is enshrined in the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, which was adopted in the 1979 and is also known as the Convention on Women's Rights. Gender equality is being supported, remember, being supported by a numerous laws. And in the Philippines, we have all these laws. So I'm not going to present them to you, or rather discuss them to you one by one, but I would just like to familiarize you and make you familiar with the legal basis of gender equality. We have the Family Code of the Philippines, E6725, and the rest, and it's also stated in our Constitution. Okay, so we encourage you to read this legal basis to be aware, or rather be knowledgeable about gender equality. Okay. So remember that gender equity leads to gender equality. We keep on talking about gender equality, but what about gender equity? Okay? What is the difference between the two? The key to removing gender barriers is to shift the mindset away from gender equality to one of gender equity. Okay. Why? Diba our goal is about gender equality. Why do we have equity naman niya? What is the difference between the two? Okay. Equality is sameness. On the other hand, equity is fairness. Okay. Check the picture. So giving everyone the same thing is for equality, but it only works if everyone starts from the same place. Okay? So there is equality if pare-parehos ta nga gingaan opportunity kag pare-parehos man ang ginhalinan ta. However, paano kung hindi pare-parehos ang atong ginhalinan? Okay? So here comes equity or fairness. We must first ensure equity before we can enjoy equality. There is an equal access to the same opportunities. Here, as you can see here in the image on your screen, equality is sameness and equity is fairness. Okay? Giving both women and men access to same opportunities. Since the third person is short here, both here in the image, plus ating equality and equity, ang ika-third na person is short. Giving him one box might help him reach the fruit, but still, he or she is still in the disadvantage because iputot siya, he is short. But if you will give him or her 3 boxes, as you can see here in equity, for him, her to stand and be of equal with others, then he or she is given the same opportunity or chance to reach the fruit. So while gender equality is simply focused on providing both men and women with the same equal opportunities, like making it legal for women to own land or even attend to school, gender equity, on the other hand, works to correct the historical wrongs that have left women behind. Okay? So gender equity is the process of being fair to women and men. Hindi lang para sa mga babae, but also sa mga lalaki man. Providing them with equal opportunity to access socially valued goods, opportunities, resources, and rewards. Taking into consideration the difference in the needs and interests of women and men, girls and boys, because remember, we have different needs and interests. So gender equity also means giving women the tools to succeed, like programs that offer conditional cash transfers to women. A focus on equity bridges the gaps in equality through laws and policies. That's why we have all these laws, as I have presented a while ago, and gender-focused programs like this one, our webinar, that don't just level the playing field, but also work to change the culture to be more supportive of women. So we keep on talking about sex, gender, sex roles, gender roles. We have gender equality, gender equity, but what about gender sensitivity? So we are going to dig deeper of what this gender sensitivity is. Okay, gender sensitivity is not a war of the sexes. Ay, hindi niya inaway sa mga babae kag lalaki. It is not an anti-male stance. Yes, they usually take against kita sa mga lalaki, no? When some talk about equality, but the reality is no, we do not take this as anti-male stance. Both women and men are victims, although women are affected more than men. So when we talk about, or when we dig deeper with gender sensitivity rather, we have to consider these 5 things or 5 concepts. We have seeing, hearing, counting, respecting, and caring. First, seeing what women and men can do rather than relying on assumptions. They can both earn money. Yes, correct, right? Both men and women can earn money. Ito nga ang mga lalaki na yan gaubra, nga ang mga bayan dapat sa sulod ng balay. Both of them can provide for the family. Okay? So again, nga ang mga babae, ang dapat sa sulod ng balay, ang mga lalaki, dapat ang gaubra. Okay? So this is seeing. On the other hand, we have hearing. Women's and men's needs, priorities, and perspectives. Both can support, okay? Both needs motivation, okay? When working, or when providing for the family, or when even studying, and both need training. If they are going to apply for a job, if even in school, no, they need training. Both of them equal training. On the other hand, we have counting. Let's count the value of women's work. Okay? Women's work, remember that women's work is as valuable as men's work. Okay? Ubra siya sa babae, though ubra siya sa babae, may word na though, no? Ubra siya sa babae, hindi na siya though. Ubra siya sa babae. Okay? That's a women's work. On the other hand, we have respecting full dignity of not just women, but also of men. Okay? So both women and men deserve our respect. On the other hand, we also have our caring about women and men and what happened to them. Both women and men deserve to be taken care of, diba? They both, babae ka man or lalaki, you deserve to be taken care of, you deserve to be loved. In the family, in the workplace, in the academy, okay? In a relationship, okay? Both are deserving to be taken care of. Okay? So this is the 5 concepts that we need to understand to better recognize gender sensitivity. So gender sensitivity is renaming and reimaging women and men relationship to bring about mutuality and partnership. Hindi lang siya nga pakalainan ng isa ka gender, but we need to a mutual and a partner, rather mutuality and partnership in gender sensitivity. So this is the premise of gender sensitivity. It is not pitying women. Wala tayong napakalulo ang mga babae when we're talking about gender sensitivity. However, we empower them. Okay? This is not male bashing. Okay? Wala tayong napakalainan ang mga lalaki here. But rather, we want equality between men and women. So we recognize with gender sensitivity that both men and women are victims of gender inequality, even in the workplace, right? Although the victims are more often the women than men. And both men and women have the stake, yes, in the struggle for gender equality. So that's why all of us, male, female, men, women, okay, should have are responsible in gender equality or pushing or fighting for gender equality. Okay, so that is more the most important in gender sensitivity. So remember that gender sensitivity towards works for gender equality, and the most sustainable solution to combat gender inequalities is to create a gender sensitive society. That's why we have this webinar. So we have to really thank the organizers of this activity, because we are giving ourselves and others the opportunity to be able to practice our rights and a responsibility for a gender-sensitive society. And lastly, our vision is to have a gender-fair society. Thank you for listening for my presentation. If you have questions or clarifications, feel free to ask here in our chat box or in the Facebook Live. Thank you everyone for listening. I think our organizers. Yes, there you have it.
Thank you very much, Miss Eileen, for that comprehensive and very informative lecture. So this time, let's proceed to our open forum. Are there any questions that you would like to ask to Miss Eileen? Kindly type and comment down your questions on the comment section of our FB Live or through Zoom chat box. Or for those who are here via Zoom, you may also raise your hand and we will unmute you. Okay, so I guess we have one question here, Miss, from Daisy May Milabo. Miss nga bukang bibig sang iban nga laki nga hindi kaya sang babaye ang ilang nga obra.
What work? What kind of work ang hindi kaya sa babae? Sige be. Okay. I remember that we are raised in a gender may unequal society, or it is part of our culture in our society na may specific or na stereotype na bala nga dapat ang mga lalaki amulang ni ubra nila kag ang mga babae amulang niya dapat ang ila ubra. Okay, so that's why we have this webinar, to be able to recognize that men and women, if given the same job, they can do, both of them can do that job. Okay, different lang ang process maybe, but they can do, both of them can do that job. Okay? So that is part of our society. Part Daisy and part na sa ating society may stereotyping or stereotypical na when it comes to our work, no? Dapat na say for example kung construction worker lalaki lang din. Okay? So that's why mga bukang bibig sa mga sa iba na lalaki hindi kaya sa mabayang ilang obra, because it's part, well, it's society.
Okay, so are there any more questions?
I'm also checking our Facebook Live. So I guess this. Okay. Sige, I guess in addition na lang with Daisy's question. Okay,
Ay,
meron
okay.
siya question.
Ti Miss kay siling, 'di ba dapat equal tanan? So nga ang iban mas ginapapili nila nga stay ang babaye sa balay instead nga mag-ubra. Kay total makabulig man na Japon para sa ila nga pangabuhi.
Okay. Thank you for this, Daisy. Remember ha, society ni ang naghambal. Okay? This is kabulugan ni Pilipinas, in our society. Society, gini ang naghambal sa aton. Nga dapat ang mga babae, ara lang din sa sunod sa balay, kag ang mga lalaki, sila ang naga-provide or sila ang naga-ubra. So this was determined by our society and by our culture. That's why we have this kind of webinars, this kind of activity, gender-sensitive awareness, to change, to somehow change this kind of mindset. Okay, to mindset of our society na no, women can provide, women can work, okay, can provide for the family, can give money and bring food to the table, not just men. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Eileen. Are there any more questions? For those who are here via Zoom, you may also raise your hand and we will just simply unmute you.
I guess we have someone is raising his or her hand, 887221. Oh,
So I think Miss Eileen, everything is clear. So it seems that there are no more questions being raised by the students. So we would also like to inform our dear students that the links for the evaluation and the attendance form will be posted or sent via Zoom chat box and will be also commented through our Facebook Live comment section. All right. So we will now take this time to present our certificate of appreciation to our resource speaker. Let me just read what is stated in this certificate. So this certificate of appreciation is presented to Miss Eileen Joy B. Decena, LPT RGC, for her invaluable insights and expertise shared to the students of VMA Global College and Training Centers Incorporated as a resource speaker during the virtual symposium on gender sensitivity, given this 27th day of April 2022 at VMA Global College and Training Centers Incorporated, Earl Carroll Street, Sumag, Bacolod City. Signed, Mr. Mayor John D. Alonsagay, MAED, OIC Guidance, and Dr. Remedios Johanna S. Vargas, Vice President for Academic Affairs. So again, thank you very much, Miss Eileen. So before we end, we would like to thank the following people for being a big part of this program. First of all, we would like to express our gratitude to our ever-supportive Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Remedios Johanna S. Vargas, as well as our Vice President for Maritime Studies, Captain Nino Elson O. Salabas. To the Dean of Maritime Studies, Second Mate Gilbert V. Wesna, together with the members of the faculty, thank you for your consideration and for allowing your students to attend to this activity. To our BSMRE and BSMT students, thank you for your cooperation and active participation during the whole duration of the program. To our resource speaker, Ms. Eileen Decena, thank you very much for your time and for imparting your knowledge to the whole VMA community. To the guidance staff and the whole MIS team, thank you for your efforts in making this webinar possible and successful. And that brings us to the end of our virtual symposium series. See you again on our future webinars. This is Hannah Grace, your host, now signing off.